So I'm sure you've heard in the last couple of days all the drama that's been going on in relation to Marathon and stolen or plagiarized artwork in the game. This actually all kicked off while I was away from home for the past few days. And yes, definitely it feels like it seems to often be the case that you walk back into the office and discover a total dumpster fire, and that's pretty much where we are right now. So in case you didn't know, an artist and designer who goes by the name N2 on X shared that the Marathon Alpha recently released with its environments covered with assets lifted from poster designs that they'd made back in 2017. And they provide a few examples right here. The piece of art on the right hand side and the words LF, Dark Space Haulage Logistics. And then we can see that actually inside of Marathon a couple of different times. This is just one example. There are numerous different pieces, many of them kind of small pieces of graphic design ultimately, and these have been generated by somebody else and ultimately used by Bungie in one way or another, and for one reason or another, without any permissions, also without giving credit, or indeed paying that artist. I'm curious if AI potentially plays into this in some capacity, as obviously bits of content like this can be absorbed and then copied or recreated, and we're either looking at a situation like that or a situation where someone has blatantly copied ideas over there at Bungie and they've ultimately found their way into the game. The original artist went on to say, Bungie is of course not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I've refined over the last decade, but clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over their game without pay or attribution. And they add, I don't have the resources nor the energy spare to pursue this legally, but I've lost count of the number of times a major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or steal my work as opposed to write me an email. In 10 years, I've never made a consistent income from this work, and I'm tired of designers from huge companies moodboarding and parasiting my designs while I struggle to make a living. And ultimately, that word in there highlights the biggest problem with this. We should keep in mind this isn't a case of inspiration, but it is straight up plagiarism, right? It got even better yesterday when Bungie finally held their AMA for Marathon. So that was a live stream with Joe Ziegler, the game director, and Joseph Cross, the art director for the game. As I saw somebody else say online, I've seen funerals that are more cheerful than this, and that was the general vibe of the stream. It was immensely awkward, not least because this was one of the first things they had to address. And this is what Joseph Cross, the art director, had to say on the issue.
It came to our attention that an artist who worked on Marathon in the early stages of pre-production took a number of graphic elements from a graphic designer without permission or acknowledgement, and placed them on a decal sheet that was then checked in 2020. The decal sheet included icons and text elements. These elements ended up in our alpha build, and there's absolutely no excuse for this oversight. And we are working on and 100% committed to our review process to ensure instances like this don't happen again on Marathon or at Bungie. A few of the things that we've done over the last 24 hours and what we're doing to shore up the review process are as follows. We've reached out to Anti-Real, the artist in question, and followed up to ensure that we do right by this artist. We're auditing all of the previous work by the artist, the internal artist, including the environment decals already in the build, which is part of why we're delaying some of the content we're going to show today. And we're committed to removing anything that is questionably or inappropriately sourced. We're doing a very broad decal audit, and if we locate any other details or elements, we'll make sure that those are eliminated, recreated in-house for sure. Hundreds of artists have worked on this project for years, internally and externally, and we share many influences, including modernism, Swiss typography, 2000s style vector art, cyberpunk, and of course the original Marathon trilogy. Our style is a result of all of those inspirations. And it's also worth noting that none of our external partners who've worked on branding or any part of the visual design of our game were involved with this situation. And lastly, personally, I have a huge amount of respect and admiration for artists working independently and producing and making a living doing commercial or fine art. And we've worked with many of them. It's one of my favorite parts of the job is to make those connections and create content and collaborate. And so to that extent, I want to send my personal apology to Anti-Real whose work was used in this case. And I know how unfair this feels, and we're doing everything we can to make this right with her. Her work is fantastic, and we clearly share mutual appreciation for a specific genre of graphic design, and it's very exciting, and I'm excited to have folded that into our style in general. So thanks for listening, and thanks for your patience.
And so that was immensely awkward, kind of an apology there, really, but at the same time, because Bungie can't really admit fault in any significant way, probably for legal reasons as well, it did ultimately come across as a pretty weak acceptance of responsibility around the issue, right? Also from the statement, much of the wording was very similar to Bungie's original statement on social media, which definitely didn't help it to feel any more genuine. So over on X the other day, Bungie said, "We immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in-game." They always say former Bungie artist. I mean, it's possible that they became a former Bungie artist very immediately in the last couple of days. But Bungie have used that line before. The Marathon dev team go on to say, though, this issue was unknown by our existing art team, and we're still reviewing how this oversight occurred. We take matters like this very seriously and have reached out to discuss the issue and are committed to do right by the artist. As a matter of policy, we do not use the work of artists without their permission, although that is a backward statement because it literally has just happened. So that policy is failing, but Bungie do say, to prevent similar issues in the future, we're conducting a thorough review of our in-game assets, specifically those done by the former artist. And we're implementing stricter checks to document all artist contributions. We value the creativity and dedication of all artists who contribute to our games, and we are committed to doing right by them. So for the moment, that's what Bungie have had to say on the subject. So it's landed Bungie in a really sticky situation, and let's face it, it's a game that already was looking like it's going to struggle. This will undoubtedly make it worse. The thing that blows my mind is that Bungie have found themselves in this position more than once. We had something similar, I believe around the time the final shape launched, or just before, where a piece of community art had been essentially replicated in a cutscene. It was kind of an illustrated cutscene in Destiny 2. But there have indeed been other instances over the years, not to mention the court case that's going on at the moment with someone accusing Bungie of plagiarizing their story components to build the Red War campaign. So it's concerning that this seems to keep happening, and I'm sure ultimately there are particular individuals that are choosing to copy these pieces of work and benefit or ultimately make their lives easier. I don't think this is a Bungie policy to just steal stuff, right? That doesn't really make sense, but it indicates a massive issue inside of Bungie and the industry in general. And so I don't know whether Bungie will go ahead and pay that artist and ultimately get the rights to actually use these pieces of content in the final product when Marathon drops, or the other possibility is that they're going to have to sweep through the entire game and ensure that all of the property actually belongs to Bungie, and in the instances where it doesn't, like this, they're going to have to replace all of that stuff in the game. So we will ultimately see how it pans out, but communities in the gaming space, wider communities than just those who are interested in Marathon or Bungie's existing community, which are largely Destiny players, safe to say, get an extremely sour taste in their mouth looking at things like this happening. And it seems that Bungie keep finding ways to just fumble the situation and do something absolutely bang out of order, which I do believe this is the case, right? Some folks would probably say, oh, it's just a little logo, it doesn't really matter, but it's a savage reminder that Bungie are a big corporation. Ultimately, they want to make money, and perhaps it's also the case that rebooting Marathon and kind of cutting corners in development one way or another is part of the reason that something like this would end up happening. And between the issues that the studio have had on a commercial level, the layoffs, decline in sentiment around Destiny, and very poor reception for Marathon, Bungie have kind of gone from a position where they find themselves in hot water frequently. I can't remember who said it, but on social media I read it, and it sums it up perfectly. Bungie stay in hot water. So we're going to have to see if we get another response from Bungie about this, and I'm sure if Bungie don't publicly talk about it, the original artist will almost certainly post further updates on this. So I've given you guys my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. It's just super obvious that on top of hurting the original artist and generally coming across as not caring about the Bungie community as much as they should, either way this is going to make Bungie's job even harder in the months to come, especially where it revolves around Marathon. So let us know what you think. Those are the updates and the response from Bungie. I will as always keep you guys posted if we hear anything else about it. Since I've been away though, I figured a quick update might still be useful, so let me know what you think in the comment section. If you want to stay up to date with all things related to Bungie's latest drama, then keep it locked and loaded here on the channel. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.